All right, I think we're on Facebook Live. I definitely know we're recording. We're here. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the 5th annual, now virtual, Philadelphia Unnamed Film Festival. I am JK, the features programmer for the festival, as well as Horror Happens and Horror Hound and a ton of other cool bells and whistles that come along with this uncharted journey that we're on right now. And with me for this Q&A, this features Q&A, is a part of the Friday night lineup, which we still have 2 more features, 2 more shorts to go, 2 more Q&As. I feel like, I feel like a barker right now screaming at you. My apologies. We still have more to come, but we're joined for this Q&A by another programmer from the team. Mystery guest, please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Matt. I'm a programmer for Puff. This is my first year with the festival. It's been great so far. And we're going to talk about Poser, which is really a really awesome film.
Yes, we are. And we had the short before it fucked up point blank. Big thank you to Shayna Williams for allowing us to be able to play that in front of this. Like I said to you before, Jake, I hate using the term fake documentary. Absolutely hate it. But the mockumentary, this true crime mockumentary that is following the journey of a man coming home after 2 years of rehab, Aiden. Jake, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I really appreciate you guys having me on and screening our film. It means a ton to us, and I am glad I'm able to join you guys here outside. It's a little chilly, but I'm doing all right.
Well, you are the man. I'm going to say that first and foremost, and we're so happy to have it as part of the slate. And what I said on Wednesday, I'm going to reiterate again, and this is a big reason why Matt's on, because, when you program features, there's so many options that come through Film Freeway and things you curate. And looking at Poser at first, this was not something that I was connecting to. I've watched this 4 times now, including the screening right now. And I'm going to tell you something. Our programming team, and more importantly, Mr. Matt right there, he was the biggest advocate for this film. And I'm really glad that he sat there and advocated for it. I'm really glad that we selected it, because what a powerful piece of filmmaking and incredible story, tension, the grittiness of it, the aspect of connections to it. It's absolutely amazing. So I want to first thank you for that. And Matt, first of all, talk about why you thought Poser was right for this lineup.
Like you said, Jay, I just loved the absolute grittiness of the film, and how it kind of blended together, the aspects of drug culture and crazy house party, what do you call it? Like punk rock, like house party shows, and this, shaky cam, mockumentary style, and just like really, really tense. Just a lot of tension, especially in the final act. And it really kept me on my toes a lot more than some of the other Film Freeway submissions that we got. And and I really liked it, and I wanted it in the lineup.
Well, you know what?
Thanks.
It is amazing that it's here, and we're so happy to have it with so many eyes in front of it. We already got a ton of people who are monitoring this chat as we speak. Jake, for you, I'll jump off. Matt, is that okay if I jump off?
Oh, please, yeah.
For the folks out there, talk about where the genesis is for Poser and what the process was like to put this together.
Sure. Yeah, we really appreciate being included. We knew we were making a film that was going to push a lot of buttons, and it was going to kind of alienate portions of our audience right off the bat. I mean, you're dealing with a character that is unlikable at its core. The characters that this was based off of was a friend that was like alienating to his family and alienating to our friends, because that just goes along with the kind of territory. So I really appreciate you guys taking a risk including it, because we took a risk making it. And the kind of genesis behind it, I was really influenced by, I don't know if you've seen the movie Pusher by Nicholas Refn, and then he also references the Cassavetes movie, Killing the Chinese Bookie. And that movie in particular is like a ride that you kind of got to let kind of wash over you. It's realistic, it's gritty. The guy he's kind of lovable, but he's also kind of a little bit of a mess up. And we took a lot of influences from that film. You know, we embedded you in that world, having him with his skits and that skate culture and the music and stuff, and then tried to turn it about halfway through. So yeah, the influence was those kind of crime movies I referenced, and then just growing up next door to one of my really close friends who, struggled with an addiction problem, and I kind of wanted to write a redemption arc for him. I wanted to, as best I could, as true as I could, as small as a redemption arc as it is, a redemption arc for him. So that was really it.
I love that. And I love how you use the term embed, because that's exactly the way it is. You are embedded in this culture. You're not sitting there as someone who knows everybody and is part of it. You're embedded in it. You're almost a voyeur to what's going on with it. Matt, what did you want to talk to Jake about?
You know, what I really wanted to talk about was the soundtrack of the film. Specifically, you know, like what bands, you know, you include. I thought I heard some Waves, some Together, Pangea, you know, and I wanted to ask if you like, you know, number one, if you, Jake, were the one who, you know, picked out the soundtrack, especially also that like kind of experimental ambient post rock stuff that's that occurs later in the film. If you were the one who selected that, and also if you had experience kind of going to these punk house shows where, you know, everything kind of gets wild.
That's a great question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The music selection was a massive portion. I actually had so I went to college with a roommate of mine who works in the music industry, and he himself curated our soundtrack. He chose bands that ranged from bands in Dayton to Indianapolis to Omaha, and specifically that ambient rock that you're listening to. That band in particular is out of Omaha, called Waning Gibbous, and they're a really, really incredible band, and they make some incredible ambient soundtracks that line up with like the phases of the moon or something like that. And that's the discordant like rock stuff you can hear like in the middle of the movie when things are falling apart. So yeah, I owe all of the music selections to that buddy of mine. And then specifically me and the punk culture, the title and the theme of it is kind of like where I sit with all of it. Like, I went to Warped Tour.
Yeah.
I listened to a bunch of punk rock, but I never had a garage band. I myself am not a skater. So I tried to do as much research as I could, but then in being honest with like portraying a lot of this stuff, like it's going to come off, you know, like these guys are just scraping the surface with it. 'Cause yeah, they're posers. The guys in it are, you know, faking that they're big hotshot drug dealers. And yeah, so it's kind of embedded into it, ingrained into it. This idea that I don't know, you're kind of trying to be something you're not. And that included me and all the actors as well. And the drug of choice in it, which is, you know, a counterfeit pills, which, you know, are one thing that you think you're getting and it becomes something else.
I love the way you talk about that, because even for a mockumentary, being objective and trying to get into that world can be really a challenge when it comes to it. If I may ask you, Jake, you know, the aspect of the brother's guilt, Aiden's guilt, because that's a big theme within this, with his brother Connor, with coming back there, feeling like he's a poser in this world because he's been away for a couple years, how things have changed around him since then. Can you talk to that theme of guilt with Aiden and how much it plays in developing his character?
Yeah, well, for me particularly, writing the story, you know, I grew up Catholic, so it's just automatically ingrained in us, just tons and tons of Catholic guilt. But my friend in particular, as like a drug addict in the suburbs, I think he had to hide a lot of his addiction. And so that guilt was something that kind of like came out in really weird ways, a lot of self-destructive ways. So when like we would be shooting short films or doing kind of skits like that, it would come out like he would do something off the wall or be high during a skit, and you'd be like, okay, you know, you just felt right now was the time to, you know, to express that. And I don't know, he took it out a lot on himself, I think. And in the movie in particular, how we had that, he himself, you know, sacrificed himself for his brother. He's felt like he was the reason that he got into, involved in that friend group in the first place, which opened him up to that drug ring. And, in an effort to try to redeem himself, to resolve him or absolve him of all that guilt, that's why he goes through with that raid sequence at the end, and ultimately puts the filmmaker in jeopardy and himself in jeopardy in doing so.
Matt?
What drove your decision to set it around Halloween? I was thinking about holidays, and I was thinking specifically about where we are now. October coming up on Halloween, and everybody's embedded in spook culture. But I was trying to imagine what it would be like if Poser was set during Christmas or Easter.
Don't open the gifts, folks. They're not what they seem like.
So I was wondering if there was a specific reason why you picked Halloween to set it in.
Sure. This is kind of a crazy story, and I'm opening up a little bit on this stream. So this is first news. I've probably never told anybody this, but so while I was making it, got prescribed Ritalin during I have narcolepsy. I'm prescribed Ritalin in order to help counteract that stuff, and I'm off it now. But while I was writing it, I was taking it, and I had to, in order to write this story, develop 3 other movies associated with it. And so I was like dead set focused on having one movie taking place on Halloween with like orange and reds and, dark colors. The next movie would take place on New Year's with like a lot of purples and blues and whites. And then the next one would take place sometime in the spring. So it'd be like, I forgot what holiday that was supposed to be about, but it'd be like specific Poser movies. The first one would be, based on Halloween. Second one would be New Year's. And then this third one would take place, I don't know, about I think it was like 4th of July or something like that. But anyway, so I chose it because it was part of a trilogy originally in my head. And I think specifically Dayton and the colors around it, like you get free production design with like fall.
Absolutely.
It's gorgeous outside, and it's super moody, and people already bring with it like feelings of like anticipation for the holidays, anticipation for Halloween. And I thought for an addict, coming back and joining in on with your friends around that holiday, it was like, I don't know, it was a reason for him to be there. It was a reason for him to get wrapped up in all this, like for him to come home.
Well,
I love it. It's over a 3-day span, correct? It comes
Correct.
up on the 30th. Okay. So it's interesting with that 3-day span, that timeline, Jake, that you have to really flesh out these characters in such a short time span. So how many drafts did this go through, and what character was the most challenging to be able to fully flesh out that you were happy with when you did the final, when you saw the final product?
Sure. They went through tons and tons of changes in the drafts. The original story was actually set after in 2001. I don't know why I was I think because I was trying to use the mini DV camera natively,
Wow.
and have it.
All right.
Yeah, and have everything backdated. And in fact, that original story involved not only was it a pill ring, but it was like an underground grow farm was included in it. And we just did not have the budget for it.
Wow.
So it had this underground grow farm, and it was around 2001. And of course, that first draft was I think it was 200 pages, involved tons of more skits. The character was probably twice as unlikable in it, but had the same story. It had the same flow where he's sacrificing himself for his brother. That was still the core. And after I had to chuck that draft out, and we actually got realistic with our budget, it actually came about from visiting the locations we were going to shoot at, because then I had to kind of rewrite portions of it, thinking okay, I've got access to one of my friend's house to use for the brother's home and the bedroom, and then a couple places near UD. And these are just from friends of friends offering up locations. And so that's how we kind of trimmed things out and rewrote the script to be modern day, because, I don't have to backdate things and not use cell phones and whatnot. And and this story had to get shorter. That was a big thing. The last writing portion came in the edit. We had a long cut, probably that was sorry, I'm shivering because I'm outside. I had a long cut that was maybe 2 hours long, and I ended up showing it to my dad really raw in the basement, and he was like, you gotta cut this thing down. It has to scream by. You've got gold in there, but you have to uncover it. You've got to shave it down. And we were able to, and that's when the final writing really took place. It was when we sat down and said, okay, let's get this thing under an hour and a half. And honestly, it was the best thing for it. I don't know if there's any other like young filmmakers out there going through this process. Editing and cutting it down and keeping it short helps. It like refines it. It keeps it popping. It ends when it should instead of dragging on. So. And what was the other question? Sorry.
No, actually, no. It was about the editing with it. But was it originally your idea, do the budget or schedule or ego to edit the film, or were you looking? Would it have been someone else if it had been different editing the film?
So part of it was just like I was the only one. Me and my co-producer Jerry Ankenbauer were like the two people that helped edit that thing. And it honestly was because we started out with a 6-person team, and over the course of making it, like every week we just lose more people. We lost, our sound guy, and then we lose our production designer guy, and then we lost another art guy. And then by the end of it, it's just me and Jerry. And we would shoot things anticipating that we were going to be the ones editing it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's ego. I don't know.
Well, there are.
Maybe that's what.
Jay, talking to so many filmmakers over the years, there are some who just, especially for their debut project, need to be in control of everything that comes along with it. And you don't seem like that. But I bring it up because you just never know, especially being with that project for as long as you were.
Sure.
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
I understand it, yeah.
So I'm thinking towards the very, very ending of the film when we learn that Aiden is, not the one who is going to prison and therefore is kind of like a poser. But I was wondering if you considered other endings, and if so, what were they?
We did consider other endings, and I hope this doesn't ruin it. We had a very, very sappy ending. Which I thought was really cool on paper, and it actually looked really good on paper, where at the very end, and this kind of reveals a bunch, I hope this doesn't change the movie for you, but at the very end, he actually does go with turning himself in. He went back inside the house. So that shot you see of him pulling up in the car and sitting in the driveway is reversed in the movie of him leaving, right? But in the way that it actually played out when we initially shot it, he pulls up to the driveway, sits there, gets out, opens up the door, finds this video camera, and then takes that into the basement. Cut to the next morning when he's finally decided to call the cops. No one's at home. It's just him. He records a last final monologue for his brother saying, because this is the only thing they're going to see of him is this videotape.
Right.
After 2 years of recovery, he comes back and this is the last thing he gets to show them. So he makes a recording like, hey, I want you to know that I was on a right path. I didn't mean for things to end up like this. I hope you find this. I hope you understand. And in the middle of it, you see the light shining from outside. A cop comes screaming and it skids to a stop. And the police officer that you see in the newscast, he played actually a bigger role in other edits, where he was like more of like a bigger antagonist. We had to cut him out just for pacing purposes and because the ending changed. But he comes home to that house, and in his head, he's like, this kid, or this guy we've had trouble with him over the years. He came back. He ended up getting a boy killed from that bad batch of pills, like, because Aiden's put it all on himself at this point. So that cop is out for blood. He's like, this guy, I'm taking him in, no matter what. He's been a pain in the ass my whole life, and now he's got somebody murdered over it. So at the very end, the cop comes screaming in, busting through the door. Aiden's shooting this monologue, and he's hearing him breaking up the house, reflective of Aiden destroying all this stuff, what's finally happening to him. Cops are busting up the whole house. He walks into the hallway, and in this frantic sequence where he's like thinking he has to turn off the camera so his brother doesn't see it, the cop ends up thinking he's reaching for a gun on the table and blasting him. He gets shot, falls in the camera, and then the movie cuts. And I wanted to include it, but it was like 5 extra minutes. The monologue was kind of sappy, and the cop doesn't play a bigger role in this part. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like it was like true to his character.
Yeah.
My buddy who I base this off of, like, I've seen him go through cycles where he gets better and gets worse and gets better and gets worse. And it was just so much more true to the character for him to leave. It just fit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
It was a gut punch, but yeah. So I don't know. That sounds interesting, I guess, maybe hearing out loud, but it did not play out well when you watch it cut.
Well, it's funny because the question Matt had before about it being during a different time of the year, you know, it's things like this that may not seem very significant, but changes like that where his character takes kind of a different turn at the end and that guilt is relieved, you know, by the ending you just talked about, really can change a narrative greatly. Also, sound can you talk about the sound work on the film?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that I couldn't believe actually turned out the way it did. Portions are hard to hear. You know, the sound was kind of like a saving grace, or we tried to like pull as much as we could out of it. But the sound guy, I love him, but he did drop out a week into shooting. And then I had to do it. And then so I had to fill in these parts. And it's a mixture of both boomed sound and sound from in the camera.
Right.
And I'll tell you the most frustrating part about it was doing ADR with the camera character in particular and trying to make it seem like he was there and trying to make it sound like he was there. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge, but it's so crazy important. Like even at the skate park to hear the sounds of people in the background, like skating and biking, in the basement to hear like the party fleshed out. Because I bet you guys can't even, maybe you can tell from seeing the footage, but like literally half that party, if not 3/4 of it, no one else is in that basement. It's just two characters.
It's smart.
It's just one character.
Yeah.
Because we tried to shoot as much as we could at that party, but it was a mess. Like none of those kids wanted to be on film at all.
Really?
None of them.
Wow.
I mean, we had the party sequence where like people are drinking, but I think it's because, and maybe this isn't good to say, but it was like, you know, you got like underage stuff and like kids drinking, and I don't want to be held responsible for it, and they don't want to be held responsible for it. We obviously won't say who it is, but like then at some point they just stopped. It was like, we wanted to keep shooting. We came here to shoot this, you know, this movie. That was the purpose of this party. And these kids were like, no, I came here to party and that's it. And I don't want to act and I don't want to be in the scene.
Kids,
so yeah,
kids.
That was ugly, but it played off okay, but
I think the sound design is incredible for this film because, I mean, you're dealing with really tricky cinematography. You know, you're dealing with a bare bones budget, and you guys really flush out that sound well. And, you know, it's those nice happy accidents that proves to be something that really kind of elevates the film, in my opinion, Jake. So it's well done.
Honestly, that really, really means a lot because that is something that I've never had anybody compliment us on for once. I really appreciate it. And it's like, that is was the most frustrating thing about the film. Hands down in the edit room, it was the sound. So tough. So,
wow. Matt, anything to add another question before we wrap it up?
Yeah. What were some of the major challenges in writing some of the auxiliary characters like Baker and, gosh, I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, like Ben and all of them, you know, Hunter also. Yeah.
Hunter is the one I'm thinking of. You know, what were some of the challenges in writing those characters?
Well, one of the things I wish I could go back in time was like, I wish I could write more dialogue for literally the three characters you named. Baker, Hunter, and Ben were like the most interesting, underutilized people of the entire film. Baker in particular, not just because the kid dies, but because he was like the only true real skater in the movie. He's the only kid out of that entire group that could skate. He's incredible. Super talented kid. But yeah, I wish I could have fleshed his character out more, but when it comes down to writing these guys on the paper, I only really, really knew the three friends, the main brother, Aiden, his friend, Mikey, and the brother. I like really understood those characters because, you know, I know them in real life. Oh, and the camera guy character. But when it comes to writing, it was like really difficult to write a manipulative Ben character was really tough.
Oh, great though. He's got such a presence.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so commanding, really. I mean, the actor who portrayed him was just really like approaching scary, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
I mean, it was really, really awesome.
Yeah, and honestly, that is like 90% that guy. Like he was so good and so natural at what he did. And when he sent in his audition tape, And I watched it with my wife, Ashley. She was just like, there was something about him. You have to choose him. Like, he has to, you know, be in this role. And yeah, I honestly, I was so blessed to find him. He was incredible. But yeah, as far as writing goes, I just really knew those three characters, and I tried to like build off of that. I wish you could see other drafts, because so much got cut with Mikey and his girlfriend, and yeah.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Yeah,
Mikey and his girlfriend got cut.
Yeah, Mikey and his girlfriend. That arc, that was one thing that I was hoping that I was going to get to see more of.
That's so weird you say that, because that was like in test shoots or in test viewings. That was the biggest thing that people were like, "Hey, you got to trim this thing down."
Really
like,
interesting.
And you got to cut that out and try to make it more focused. Then again, the guy that was making those comments is the dude that he is based off of. The Mikey character is based off of. So maybe he's biased. He's like, I want to see less of me on screen.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
He's like, cut me out. I was like, okay.
We're here. It is the Philadelphia Unnamed Film Festival, the 5th annual virtual festival. We're talking Poser. We're about to wrap it up. Up next is Block 3 with the feature film Seeds by Skip Shea, great New England folk horror, and a really, really experimental short film before it. So you'll have to check it out. Redis Domum? Did I say that correct, Matt?
Redis Domini?
There you go. See, that's why
anyway,
I made the big dollars and I don't. You know?
Whatever it's called, it's actually one of my absolute favorite short films in this entire festival. It's like a minute and a half long, but you really don't want to miss it. It's absolutely amazing.
So let's finish this up, and we thank all the people tuning in to Puff. We thank all the supporters. And Don Giovanni Records, of course, I finally got it right. It only took 15 times to do it. But we thank everyone for being a part of this. And head over to Fest Home, get your Fest Pass for $10 or buy the blocks. And as I had talked before, Jake, common sense, get the Fest Pass for $10. It just makes too much sense.
It's worth it.
It does.
Jake, let me finish it up with you on this. Your cinematographer. I mean, this is, again, we had just brought up how tricky it is to be able to do a film like this. Obviously, you know, storyboards. Was there storyboards? What's the relationship with the cinematographer to bring this real-life documentary feel to it?
Yeah, so he's a co-producer on it, but he really did co-direct the film. Of course, I moved the actors around, but he himself was an actor in it, had to move around as one of the characters while holding the camera, while making it look decent. And Jerry Ankenbauer is the cinematographer and the co-producer in it. And he is just a naturally good documentarian. He knows where to put it and where to hang it or to hold on to a shot. And did we storyboard it? Some portions of it, I knew exactly how the shot was supposed to be composed, like the shooting at the end, you know, that scene,
right?
And some other pretty complicated shoots. But mostly no, we had a shot list and we riffed. So it would be, kind of hang on these 2 shots, swing over here, get this 2 shot, and then a lot of following shots. But as long as he perfected that car shot, which we use pretty much on 90% of the movie is them in the car with the camera hanging on or following a character. As long as he gets those 2 shots, we'll be good. But yeah,
Fantastic.
Super talented guy.
What's up next for the movie? What's up next for Poser?
What's up next for it? Well, I'm hoping with the COVID stuff's kind of stifled a little bit of the festival run. So I'm hoping we're in the running for some more, but we don't know. But Louisville's another big one that's got coming up. But you guys were honestly one of the biggest, and we were so blessed to be a part of it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess stay tuned on it, and we'll reveal more.
The unpredictability, man. It's unpredictable on so many levels with Poser. Jake, thank you so much for being a part of this. Congratulations, and thank you for being a part of this lineup. We love it.
Yeah,
we love it, Jake.
Thank you guys so much.
Our pleasure. Stay tuned, folks. We're coming up next right now with Seeds. And I'm sorry, what was that title, Matt, of the short?
To be honest, I don't know. I think it's Redditus Dominium. I am most likely wrong on that.
Well, you know what? We apologize. Sorry, Andrew, but we love your short. So check it out now. Check out Seeds and check out Poser at the next festival or when it hits VOD. Jake, thank you so much. Matt, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.